Hello everyone and welcome to another chill Sunday Staxel stream. I hope everybody is having a great and lovely day. Just gonna wait for people to make their way in while I throw the info for the stream up on Twitter. Let's see. Here we go. Duke, I believe you are the first one. Welcome. How are you doing today? Welcome, Zero. Glad to have you here. How was your Sunday? Duke is number one indeed. Doug, I welcome you. I understand that you won't be super around, but I am glad to have you here in any capacity. Let's see, this is posting on Twitter. And we're good. I'm just going to give people a few minutes to make their way into the stream. Welcome, M. I hope you are having a lovely Sunday. And I agree with Duke. Maggie is a good dog and deserves all of the love and support she is getting from you. Sweet caffeine nectar. As usual, I have my pot of Earl Grey tea. Oh, but I am missing something. I just realized I am missing something. I will be right back, y'all. Okay, that's better. My ears were missing. It's not a proper Sunday Staxel without them. I mean, yeah, the music wasn't playing until I put the ears on. That's how that works. It is elf magic indeed. This music is so, just chill and beautiful. Jalix, you are indeed somewhat on time this time. Duke is number one, though. How are you doing this day, Jalix? I hope you're doing well. Just give it another minute or so, and then we can get into building some more of the ship. I'm actually hoping to do some questing and not getting so caught up in the shipbuilding that that I forget. And I want to talk about water and its future, and how water is life, and we need to have a long conversation about water. And I mean more than just today, like, as a society, we need to be talking about water. Jalix says, you're mentally drained. Oh, I'm so sorry. What has you mentally drained if you feel as though you want to share? You just played Fortnite with Poob. Yeah, it could be a little anxiety inducing. I need to temper myself when I actually play that game. But did you buy the $19 Fortnite card from her? That's what everybody wants to know, Jalix. Duke, your cat is crying at you. We'll get started. Start doing some more shipbuilding. Well, if you're comfortable with it, give Maggie some scritches or scratches for me, whichever she prefers. I do not have flight on. Fly! I hope Duke's kitty is okay also. Okay. This ship is really starting to come together. Welcome, Cray. Stopping in to say hi? I'm hoping we can get a good amount of this done today. At least the actual hull of the ship. There we go. Of course he was. He's a cat. That's what cats do. They demand your attention. Constantly. Why do you think I'm building this ship? It's for Based Cat. Also to protect all of reality from the wrath that would be Based Cat. It's perfectly reasonable. That's because Munchkin knows Munchkin does not have to demand your attention. Munchkin knows that you understand. You're well-trained human. Actually, I kind of have an interesting idea to do with the bottom of this ship. Where does this jettison out? Here? You know what? I kind of want to take a look at the bottom of a ship. I wonder how I could do that, because I feel like this might be too flat down here. Ale, welcome. How are you doing this Sunday? Bottom of a... I might have rounded it too much. No, I don't think I did. Maybe a little bit. I might have rounded it a little too much. It depends on the ship, though. Let's see what the bottom, how the bottom of these ships was. Actually, that's really not that far off. Alright. I'm just tempted to stop it at this 4 spot instead of the 2. What do you all think? Have it flatten out at 4 or have it flatten out at 2? Or even flatten out at 6? Poob, welcome. Poob, you are indeed. So is Jalix, and so is, Doug. So Zero said 4 or 6. I think Duke said 6, but message deleted. No, that's reasonable, Pooh. Just... I do hope she's okay. Hello, David. Welcome. Well, I think I can speak for everyone when I say that we just want Maggie to be okay. And more than anything, I'm glad Maggie has someone in her life that makes her, you know, safe and happy. Who takes care of and looks after her. The arc of Base Cat is coming along pretty nicely. Yeah, I think that's much better, honestly, than what I had before. Yeah, the rain in Staxel is absolutely, like, gorgeous. It's so refreshing on the ear. Oh no, that is not what I wanted to put there. There we go. Let's see. There we go. Most of this is just building in a straight line. What is with the Among Us in real life? Who's playing Among Us in real life? Oh, Ale, I could not help you with anything Skyrim related. I have never played Skyrim. I'm hoping somebody else here could help you, though. Overwhelming is a good way to explain Skyrim, in my opinion. Okay. Sometimes the flight mechanic on this is a little wonky and hard to control. Almost like when you're playing a game that was not meant to make you move in 6 directions, and you try to move in 6 directions, it starts to get a little weird. I hear you should avoid arrows to the knee. This is true. Arrows to the knee have a tendency to leave you incapacitated. Okay. Oh, that one I lined up nicely. Honestly, Poop, I'd prefer not having that conversation in stream. That might be something for the Discord. For certain reasons, because of who it might bring. Oof, it's getting hard to see in this area. It's not so much an issue of toxicity, David, the thing that we're talking about. It's an issue of... Well, you know what, it is absolutely toxic, but I don't think it's an online community issue. Like, it's not exclusive to online and just not something that I kind of want to draw in on chill Sunday Staxels. kind of want to. There might be a time for that. I don't know if I have the energy for that today. I'd rather focus on us talking about the good things in our movement, what we have to do, and our goals, and protect our positions, rather than focus on that particular aspect of things. Yeah. And I mean, there is an argument that it is a form of protecting people and doing for people, but it's not necessarily where I want to focus things. I agree, Pooh, but it also means that we're on the defensive. And I right now want to focus on how we can do better for people. Exactly. I'm with Duke on this one. One of our primary functions should be protecting and defending people and creating and building aspects and counterpoints to capitalism. And that's where I sit, at least. Like, I'm not saying that we don't need a diversity of tactics and that there aren't, that it isn't good or anything that people are doing what they're doing with that. It's just not my area. At least not now. Well, you're also, you know, you've got time to grow and figure out your place and stuff, Pooh. We all do. We're all, you know, if we're all trying to do our... Yeah, we all gotta start somewhere. If we're all trying to do our best to make our movement better and to make lives better, I think we're doing the right thing. Aren't we all, right, Duke? I mean, we're all kind of lost in our own ways. We're all learning. We're all growing. Yeah, like David said, welcome to the club. Like, we're all trying to make things work as best as possible as we go. But also trying to, like, find things that work and create things that, will just make people's material conditions improve. Don't tell me I'm feeling sleepy, that's a lie. It's a good thing when I'm in creative mode that doesn't affect me. Mutual aid is a really broad topic, even if you might not have thought about it before. Helping out community looks like a bunch of different stuff. Yeah, and it's actually a lot of really mundane stuff. You know, making community meals, drawing up community planning for gardens. What do I think about the role of the arts in social movements and its role in broader anarchist principles? Well, there's always been two types of art, as far as I am concerned. Obviously, this is much more broad, and I'm oversimplifying everything when I say this. There's art that is perpetuating the system, and then there's counterculture art. Sometimes there's overlap between the two, but for the most part, when something gets brought into the capitalist system and appropriated, it ends up becoming furry art and not furry art. Funny. You end up with art that ends up perpetuating the system. Those are the things that get sold for millions of dollars. And sometimes in capitalism, especially under capitalist realist conditions, those overlap. You start to take the counterculture and pull it in to the main purpose. But I think as an expression, as a form, the type of art that we would see as counterculture has a place within our movements and is quite valid and important. You can express more in a single piece of artwork, especially street art, than you can sometimes in, or even on like a piece of art online or something, but I'm used to seeing it in street art form, where you can express more about the world in like a single image than you could in books and books and books of information. And sometimes it's more easily accessible to communities to be able to see it when they're seeing it on their way to work, when they're seeing it in the moment, when they are dreading things the most. There's something fascinating about that. Are counterculture and counterculture hegemony necessarily the same thing, though? Could you elaborate on that question? Because I think I get what you're saying. I just want to make sure I'm answering your question correctly. Also, I think we've almost got most of the bottom of the ship done. This is exciting. I think that depends on whether you think culture as white mainstream capitalist culture, because there's a lot of different cultures. That's also another great point, Ale. And I think broadly speaking, when we talk about the culture, it's usually white, mainstream, capital culture. But there is definitely a broad understanding that each cultural identity brings in their own artistic form. And it only becomes a part of capital when either it's necessary or when it gets co-opted and is useful, and you can make money off of it. And when I specifically think about that, I think about the amount of times I have seen Latin American and specifically indigenous Latin American patterns on white Western clothes and clothing companies and stuff like that, where you take cultural symbols and turn them into capital gains. And usually not by the person who... Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't know if that's gonna work. One issue is if we look at the arts of Latin America, Africa, and other colonized cultures, the counter-hegemonic art was more of an affirmation of the colonized people's civilization. Hood. I'm totally in agreement. So far. Rather than an entirely new countercultural art form. I would agree with that statement. I'm just curious what the... what the question then is. Maybe I'm just having a moment of not understanding. That needs to be expanded outward, but that is starting to look really good. It's just going to take a while to fill all this in. You're at best weary of countercultures as viable modes of counter-hegemony. I'm not exclusively talking about it being just by itself viable. I mean, it's part of what we're attempting to do. And I think when a culture is able to express itself, you end up giving that culture power and voice in a system that often doesn't prioritize those voices. There's always the risk of it getting co-opted. I definitely think it's a diversity of tactic. I don't think there's anything more powerful, for example, than when you're on your way to your job to, like, see something that completely takes you out of the, how do I put this? I don't think there's anything quite like when you're on your way to work, when you're on your way to a certain event, when you're just going about your day, to see a piece of street art that basically just transforms your position. Wage slave, I am anarcho-communist, but I don't functionally disagree with most of syndicalist thinking. Duke says, an important thing to keep in mind, though, is that any lasting change will ultimately be a cultural in nature, so cultural artifacts that express it are important. I agree with you there, Duke. Honestly. You know what? Maybe I'm better off doing it this way instead of going the long way. Because it's easier to keep track of. Like, add 1 to each of these. From what I understand, Jalix of anarcho-syndicalism, the perspective is based around the idea that we can use labor unions as the primary source of organization. I mean, that's one of the main components of it. And I think it is a very effective tactic to use labor unions, even if they have had somewhat problematic histories in certain moments. Okay. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. This one was already done. The arts as part of a broader liberation movement will be very important to building a figurative path forward. I agree, David. I think that's more of the the point I'm trying to get at, so I think we're on the same page. One, two, three. Hello and welcome, Emma. I am sure this conversation is probably not over your head, but I don't want to put that out there if you disagree. But I think that you probably have plenty to contribute to this. One, two, three, four. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Damn it. I can't even see. The darkness in this game sometimes is... Two, three, 4. And 1, 2, 3. There we go. That's funny. There's also a very important function of myth and lore building that helps us experience the dialectic between intellectual and emotional levels. I would agree that that's quite important, David. Okay. Now we need to do what? 1, 2, 3, 4 more of those? Yeah, 4 more. Is that good? Yep, and then a 5. There we go. Here, give me light. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Emma says over your head is when you don't... Yeah, okay. You were explaining to Jalix. Yeah, thank you for doing that, Emma. Your brain is not, you're not, how do I put this? Jalix, you are doing wonderfully in terms of your growth with stuff like that. And it's good that you're asking the questions that you're asking. You may be surprised at how many people became socials because of Star Trek and X-Men. Oh, I wouldn't be surprised if X-Men was a huge, huge factor in a lot of people. Star Trek and X-Men especially, the ones you just cited, like, yeah, for sure. How much you know isn't so important, really how much you grow as a person. I agree. Oh, you feel drained. Okay, I understand. I thought you were, doing like a self-deprecation thing where you were saying that your brain is literally mush. See, even, like, we all misunderstand from time to time. I cannot see down here. David says, being able to know what you don't know and having the curiosity to seek answers is a very important part of liberation. Absolutely. It's being willing to be open to questions and seeking the answers. And being willing and able to see things that maybe contradict with what you've seen before and learn from them and grow. That's the only way we're going to liberate ourselves in these kind of environments and societies. Exactly, Duke. This is exactly why conservatives often attack education. An educated populace is very hard to control. Because the thing is, education isn't just the knowledge that you learn, it's a way of thinking that makes you analyze things critically, that makes you examine things, that makes you want to find solutions to problems, to find the questions to ask sometimes even more than the answers to them. Why is this way? That is a great George Carlin quote. The rulers don't want informed citizens, they want obedient workers. I think that can then extend out from there. You said, Jalix says, I got into leftism by not fitting into the school system and learning about structural critique that way. Zero says the whole culture of anti-intellectualism is so insidious. I agree that an educated person is not inherently better, but we should all strive to learn and grow. The thing is sometimes we grow up in the reality where we start to question things. Sometimes it's the education system itself that ends up creating that questioning thought. I think I can now extend this all the way outward. On this side. I think we're at that point where I can just extend these out and I should be done with this side. If I'm missing anything in chat, just bear with me while I'm trying to focus on going in a straight line in this game to build this. And if I do end up, again, missing anybody's points at any point during the conversation, just send it again. Chances are I either missed it in the movement of chat or whatever. It's not me actively ignoring anything. Excellent. Okay. Also, I just want to say I love the fact that you all have conversations with each other and not just with me. I know I've said this, like, in other streams, but it is so important to me that we're all conversing and that it's just not, like, one person being conversed with. And it really means a lot that this is a space in a community where we can have these conversations. Let me catch up with chat just quickly. Okay, Ali says, my family's kind of conservative, so a lot of my questions got unsatisfactory answers. Weirdly enough, I ended up in a Facebook meme group about anarchists. It introduced me to a ton of ideas, and it really helped me figure out answers that I'd been looking for. Duke says, I had a few leftist teachers who helped me along that way. David says, I think that countercultures tend to be very niche and not suited for changing the momentum of the broader society. That's true. For the most part. Still can't believe Facebook of all things is what led me to this. Yeah, that's actually really funny, because Facebook is kind of considered to be that super conservative place at this point. So that's really fascinating, Ale. But, you know, that's the thing, like, when we put our information out there and it starts to make sense to people, because honestly, I think the general ideas, even if we don't have the ultimate solutions and we don't have, like, how to fix everything in one go, the ideas that we're purporting about identifying the problems, about attempting to create alternatives, and the desire to do so makes sense. So people latch onto that. And a lot of times, the only thing we need is counter-arguments to what we grow up in. Jalix says, my family didn't have any answers because I barely have contact with most of them, so I got most of my information through the internet. You got lucky there, Jalix, because the internet is, can be a scary place with that, especially YouTube. Capitalism was once a niche counterculture. That is true. Duke, that is an absolutely great point. Emma says, that's how a lot of people get their politics these days. Sometimes it's great, but it's not. Sometimes it's not. Well, I think with anything, you're gonna run into a situation where, you know, a lot of these things can be used both for positive and negative means. And I think social media is a limited form. And I wish we all had more time to engage with things. That's one of the things that I think we need to start advocating for. Getting people more time. Because it's by time and skills that we're going to make the most change as anarchists. Being able to build things and change things and grow things ourselves. And to do them in ways that are in communion with the needs of the planet especially, but also our needs. Let's see. Capitalism was once better than what existed. In parts of the world, I would agree with you, Zero, and certainly in European history. Capitalism was definitely an improvement of what was existing in Europe at the time when capitalism took root, or the beginnings of capitalism, the switch from mercantilism and how imperialism ended up creating capitalism. That was certainly better for Europe, for sure. I don't agree that the early liberals were part of a counterculture, Duke. They were continuing a tradition of philosophies that could be traced back to the Greeks. The reason that would be a counterculture, and maybe we're having a different definition of counterculture, David, is the Greeks purported that kind of system, but they also maintained things like slavery within their society. They also maintained other aspects of it. And Aristotle wrote about everything from monarchies to oligarchies to democracy and criticized all of them and praised all of them. So it's kind of to say that a merchant republic was not an antithesis and a movement that was counter to the monarchies of the day. It certainly was a form of counterculture in the fact that it literally formed a society that was based on a different thing than the worship of the king as divine rule. And perhaps we're having a different definition of counterculture. That would be my best guess. And I don't know, maybe we could try to figure that out. I think capitalism had a bad time and a bad place. We need to move forward. Part of my education that has led me to the left was learning history. That was the way things were, have not always been. That's something that I think as a historian, Duke, I often forget, is how many times people are in the mindset that everything that is right now has always been. That things have not transformed, and if they have transformed, it has been in minor ways that have just improved the society. That's the myth that we're told all the time. Things like, oh, well, MLK showed up and then racism ended. Like, those are the levels of historical myths that have occurred, where there's change, but it's just like, oh, the system's otherwise perfect, but we made some mistakes because we're human and we just fixed it and then it was better. That's the level and extent that I see people cling to when they talk about history. And the problem is it's much more broad than that. There was an entire time in history where entire societies functioned so differently than we work today. And that's the part that I don't think people are able to just quickly latch onto. That's the part of history that I think we need to emphasize when we talk about our movements. Emma says that's what's cool about it. The bad part is how the right wing uses the tactics, I guess. Yeah, the right wing can use tactics and they have funding. They are able to fund their positions and are able to effectively make change through manipulation of data and stuff like that that they fund through their own financial channels. Jalix says, I was an anti-SJW type before I found the left. Looking back, it was really cringe. I'm just gonna say this, Jalix. If you don't hate yourself as a teenager or hate aspects of yourself as a teenager, you probably, like, I don't know what else to say. Like, I can't tell you the number of things that I look back on, and I was having thoughts about capitalism and socialism and all of that as early as, like, 14, 15. Probably earlier, if I'm being honest and real. But some of the ways that I manifested that, some of the ways I described certain components of that, were so limited in my language, in my understanding. And I'm hoping that future generations are able to also look back and say the same thing, because I feel like a lot of 14 and 15-year-olds are getting equipped with knowledge that I literally had no access to. And so hopefully even they end up looking back and being like, wow, there was some cringe stuff in my rhetoric and I've grown so much. because that's how we're going to get better. Ali says, for sure, still kind of worry when I see political memes now, especially I've seen so many terrible ones. Satirical memes in general almost make me worried just because of how many are dog whistles. Yeah, that is an issue. I have no clue how I ended up at that because I love the idea of worker co-ops and a more democratic school system, so I kind of agreed with a lot of socialists even when I was anti-SJW. That's the thing. That's the thing. That's the difference, Jalix, what you just identified there between the cultural component and the ideas within the system that we're trying to create. Culturally, you were anti-SJW. You heard these things and it made sense to you, probably because it critiqued the things that you liked, like video games, and you didn't always see every other component of things that were going wrong. But you also had an idea that there was something wrong in the economy and that maybe certain things were wrong. And I'm just pointing to and guessing based on what you're saying, but I imagine that there was a disconnect between how those were related. And part of our education process is kind of putting those together and realizing, wait a second, that's kind of all tied together. And once we do that, we end up growing and we end up coming into our own as leftists. Even people who are at the most fringe components and parts of our society have probably had internalized issues where they've had to, like, figure things out. Because nobody spells this stuff out for you. David, the part of the story that told themselves is actually true. Locke took arguments from antiquity and tried to refine them to develop a critique of feudalism. That is very true. 4-hour workdays, 20-hour work weeks, $69 an hour, baby. Can we just make it 70 and not go for the meme? I know you were doing, Duke. But I'd rather have $70 an hour personally and, forget the meme. The liberal idea of society is mostly good, but we just need to tweak it. The thing is, a lot of leftists would argue that the position of many left ideologies is a natural extension of liberal thinking to its logical conclusion by ignoring the property factor. Because one of the contradictory points within liberal thinking is the idea that people are supposed to be free and yet money. And yet property. And all these other factors where money and property end up contradicting the other aspects of freedom. I am free to starve. Fun. Exactly. That is exactly what I'm getting at. There's a level of individualism that gets emphasized over everything else. And when we talk about the protection of liberty and property that's purported by a lot of liberals, even in their original texts, there was an inherent contradiction that they were constantly struggling with. Specifically around how does one juxtapose property against people's freedom. Welcome, King Cyrus. It's great to have you here. How are you this Sunday? Counterculture tends to be more reflexive. A successful counter-hegemony must improve upon their cultures rather than reflexively oppose it. I'm going to agree with you there, David. That's interesting. That's an interesting differentiation. Glad to hear that you're doing great. Okay, I think I can start to break some of this off. It shouldn't destroy everything else. Because that's all built into the rest of things. Yeah, so I should be able to... That is not what I wanted to do. Okay. I cannot see. This game favors darkness way too much. Counter-hegemony should build, which is what I like about dialectical nature of leftist thought as it stands. True. I am inevitably outclassed by the king arriving. Howdy, King Cyrus the Great. Yes, every time we enter into our monarchism, the king will always supersede the duke. Counterculture is a sort of pressure release mechanism within oppressive systems that prevents the nourishment of a viable counter-hegemon. Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to get at when I was talking about it being co-opted into capitalist realism. David, would you mind identifying those terms for Daleks in the way that you understand them? Because I think that might be super helpful to this conversation, actually. Oh, I can just do that, can't I? That's kind of funny. Yep. And then if I just break that, that should take the whole section off. Nice. That one, on the other hand, I will have to break individually. Two, three. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. My dog is coughing a lot because they had to intubate her at the vet, so I'm trying to get her to eat some honey for her throat. It's a boot. Oh, poor baby. Okay, Ale said the same thing. I'm surprised that she's not just lopping up the honey, honestly. But I'm glad that you are able to help her and provide that for her. She finally decided she liked it. I mean, I thought that might happen, but yeah. David says hegemony is a sort of common sense that enforces existing power relations, and in order to break free, we need to build a counter-hegemony, or a better common sense. That makes a lot of sense. Now I see why you're distinguishing between a counterculture and a counter-hegemony. I am glad that we were able to define that. Because that's actually very helpful. I agree with Jalix. Because I think that changes the terms of the conversation in a very good way. Yeah, I kind of do also do, but now that David's bringing up that distinction, it's something I want to think about more. One, two, three, 4, 5. And this is one of the things I love about having these Sundays with you, because I learn so much. Anyone notice how when people bring up cancel culture, they ignore things like sex work, workers getting shadow banned on Twitter, and Palestinian advocates getting censored? Yeah, that's because it's not counterculture if it's happening to the left, or to leftist understandings. It's only counterculture when it's happening to right-wing peoples. They don't even pretend that it's like when they do it, it's a problem. I mean, how many times have corporations fired people? How many times have corporations fired people for the most foolish of things, or not hired people for the most foolish of things in society? Can we not call that a form of, say, cancel culture? If, for example, I, as a business owner, will not hire you for having a tattoo, or having some sort of cultural symbol on your body, or, dare I say, having natural hair. Isn't that a form of cancel culture? But we don't care about that. We'd rather talk about how Christians are being oppressed because they can't have the right to deny gay people cakes. Because that's not cancel culture. Like, it's so ridiculous. Child labor's irrelevant, yeah. There's a philosopher from Italy, Antonio Is that Gramsci? Is that how that's pronounced? Who had a profound understanding of freedom and power relations, who was the first to understand the nature of hegemony. Jalix says, I know 5 people who specifically got fired for being a union rep. But that's not cancel culture, is it, huh? I mean, forming a union? That isn't cancel culture. That's just you being fired because of economic reasons. Like, why would we want to hire union people? Conservatives cancel people and virtue signal with the best of them. They just never acknowledge what they do as such. Absolutely true. And for how many years was it where women and people of color were denied positions in magazines and companies where they wrote stories and books? How many times were people denied access being newspaper reporters because they were women or people of color, especially? How often did that happen? Where people had to ghostwrite for other people and other names. And that's not a form of cancel culture, right? Or the fact that the McCarthyism of the 50s and 60s and 40s basically made it so that anyone who expressed anything even remotely leftist was subject to scrutiny and could lose their job and get blacklisted. Or how about back in the 20s and 10s when anybody who was communist, socialist, or anarchist ended up getting denied labor jobs and were blacklisted from companies and not hired across industries? But no, tell me more about how, people are getting canceled today when they have right-wing perspectives. The right has always done this. Duke, exactly like that one episode of DS9. Merchants, welcome. Glad to have you here. How are you doing today on this lovely Sunday? 4, 5. Feel like today is a pretty good day for me. Think we're having some really good conversations. Also, welcome Mark Hansen. Welcome to the stream. How are you doing this Sunday? Also, my music isn't playing in Staxel right now. Oh no. There we go, it's back. I can't even see. Let's get some light going. There we go. You know what? That is actually... Yeah, that's where I can do that. I was wondering how that was going to piece together, and sometimes things just work out. Because that can basically hold things together. Here we go, and now I have a big opening in the bottom, like that. We're getting there. We are getting there. Aretha Franklin and Marvin Gaye's bodies of work, counter-hegemonic art, have done much more for mainstreaming leftist values than punk rock culture, counterculture art. Now I see what you're getting at. You're defining counterculture, David, as like the aesthetic of being different or weird or strange, in the society. Whereas counter-hegemonic things are things like Aretha Franklin. But I'd even argue that many of those things were co-opted and, absolutely brought into the mainstream. And that's the part that sucks. Because, like, rock and roll as a whole was completely co-opted by white society. A lot of the works of, say, Elvis Presley, for example, were originally done by black artists who had their works essentially stolen and their songs essentially stolen. Even Hound Dog is not an original to Elvis Presley. The thing is, though, Jalix, punk rock was not originally funded by capitalism. Most of the punk rockers were doing the thing in their own basements, and they were doing garage bands, and they were trying to create something different. And a lot of the women within punk rock, especially when they tried to get into the movement, they were functionally pushed out of it. Like, one of the few examples that got through, I think, was Joan Jett. And the original version of Hound Dog was done by Big Mama Thornton. Thornton? Thornton. I think Thornton is correct. But yet, like, everybody remembers that as an Elvis Presley song. And that's a disservice. If I could play it on stream and get away with the copyright, I would definitely play Big Mama Thornton's version. Because it is so much better than Elvis's. I highly recommend you look it up yourself, though. King Cyrus says, I made a point in saying moral panics actually justify the police state more than people know, and when people bring up moral panics, at times it's just more to justify a authoritarian state. Usually true, yeah. Punk was co-opted early by the hegemon. Just look at the Sex Pistols. They were invented by a guy who owned a clothing store. True. And also thank you, David, for the pronunciation confirmation. There's a line in Marvin Gaye's What's Going On song. He brings up picket signs and picket lines. Don't punish me with brutality. He's talking about cops busting a union. Yeah, that's what I thought, Zara, that it's Big Mama Thornton. Thornton. Also, Jalix, I'm glad I'm not the only one who thinks of that with Johnny Rotten, that thinks of Robbie Rotten, because that's hilarious. Aretha and Marvin's work wasn't co-opted as much as people just stopped paying attention to what it means. I feel like you could argue that about a lot of the music, though. I don't disagree with you. I'm just trying to parse out to what extent that is, that it was co-opted as well. Because if the message isn't getting through, and people stop paying attention to it, what is its effectiveness? And I don't mean that in a negative way, or to say that it wasn't something that should have been done, or anything else. I'm just kind of asking the questions, because I don't have the answers myself at the moment. Okay, let's do the other side of the ship. So this should go one out. And we'll do that all the way down, because that seemed to work before. Welcome, Gangle. How are you doing today? Punk was many different things at the same time. It appeared organically in the US, New York. McLaren artificially created punk in England, and it became a true movement. Yeah, punk is a weird thing to describe in that regard. I am inclined to agree with that. If you want to look at a counterculture example that, and I'm sure this will probably upset some people, that really failed, I'd say grunge is the even better example than punk. Um, yeah, let me get a definition for grunge instead of one off the top of my head, because I will do it a disservice. The fact that these are accepted as great works of art already is a great asset to the left. We just have to deepen people's appreciation of what they already love. True. I guess, David, I'd have a question for you in terms of this counterculture thing. What do you think of, oh, I can't think of the band's name. That is about System of a Down. What do you think of their role in terms of counterculture versus counter-hegemony? So, grunge rock is defined as alternative rock genre and subculture that emerged in the mid-80s in the American Pacific Northwest, particularly in Seattle and nearby towns. It fuses elements of punk rock and heavy metal. It really became big with Nirvana. Well, Nirvana's always the go-to example of grunge. But I'd say Soundgarden, Melvins, Skinyard were definitely involved, even though they're probably lesser known by most people. Some people, I think, even throw like Pearl Jam into that mix, which is interesting. You struggle to see how Nirvana, Alice in Chains, and Soundgarden were in the same genre of rock. I can see how Nirvana and Soundgarden were in the same genre. It was more of an aesthetic appeal. In a lot of ways, what grunge did is it called out a lot of the issues of capitalism, for example, and the kind of postmodern understanding of things in a very specific way. I think of Black Hole Sun and I think of Smells Like Teen Spirit in very similar ways. But they're both co-opted into the system with capitalist realism, where they end up becoming part of the culture that they maybe were critiquing. And I don't know if that, like, specifically is an issue of the artists themselves, like, because I think some would argue that Kurt Cobain, for example, didn't exactly agree with the system. Yeah, I can see how they fit together in that way, both in a narrative function and musically. But I would definitely appeal... Oh, capitalist realism, Jalex, is an understanding... There was a book that was written about this. It's a very short read compared to a lot of other theory, and I think it's worth reading if you're someone who wants to get an in-depth analysis of what we're going up against. But the perspective essentially is that capitalism is this thing that keeps self-perpetuating itself in our thought processes. That no matter what we do, every attempt to subvert capitalism ends up becoming part of capitalism. Because it's the only thing that we can imagine. We can't imagine something different. To imagine something different is almost a taboo. It's almost impossible. There is no alternative. That's the... Yeah, thank you, Duke. The Thatcher quote. Book clubs are great ways to do that. Having community involved with your reading process to help you learn and grow is always a good thing. And if you want to talk about that further in terms of actually implementing something, Jalix, we can discuss that maybe tomorrow on the Discord a little bit. Because that might be I might have some ideas for some things. Oh, that's fair, David. Um, like that's the other thing. Like none of these are going to necessarily provide specific examples. Well, I was toying with the possibility of how to make that work, and we can talk about that. Nirvana was more like a raw, simple punk band, and the others were relatively grandiose heavy metal. I don't know. The thing that always comes to my mind is the comparison between Smells Like Teen Spirit and Black Hole Sun, because those are remarkably similar in tone. But if we're really going to talk about counter hegemony in the 90s, I think we need to talk about the works of people like Tupac, honestly. Prefigurative politics is something that is very neglected in problem solving. I completely agree, David. Okay. And then here we go to 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Conquest of Bread is a great place to start. I also would suggest, if anybody's having an issue, Audible Anarchist exists, LibriVox exists. Sometimes people who might have difficulty reading or might need to multitask because of either work or other aspects, you can definitely get help there. Because sometimes we don't have time to sit down and crack open a book in our system and in our society. And it can be very helpful. Grunge failed because it was just an outlet for teen angst. I agree. And not an analysis of the causes of angst. It was edgy without being rebellious. I would completely agree with you there. Black Hole Sun has a verse similar to a Beatles song, and an anthem-like chorus. No wonder it became such a big hit. Yeah, but if you look at the music video, Gangle, that is clearly a critique of the suburbs and of white living in the suburbs. Like, there's no other way to analyze that. Which is kind of fascinating. That's exactly what I was thinking of, Emma, so you, me, and Jalix should have a conversation about that tomorrow. Where we could even read something different from the other club. I would be very much in favor of this. And I would try to make room for both. But let's talk about scheduling that on the Discord. Oh yeah, it is a beautiful song and very catchy. I think that's part of what what's fascinating about it is it comes off musically like something so melodic, like you said, like a Beatles song, but then in it distorts itself in a very interesting way. We can definitely have, again, Emma and Duke, we can have that conversation on the Discord tomorrow. I very much am in favor of this. Yeah, I think that was intentional, but I think it also, it lacks, there was a level like David had said where it critiques the system, but it doesn't give us a reason to revolt or what's wrong with it. It just says this is wrong, and it's limited in that way. It doesn't even effectively say as a tool like what's wrong with the system. It just says, oh, this is kind of weird and kind of cringe almost, and it lacks the, I guess, oomph to go further than that. But that doesn't mean it's not a good song or something we can't enjoy. Not every song needs to have that same like punch to it. Not every song needs to be all of that. We need to be able to have our own silly fun every now and then and shut our brains off too. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And I just happen to be a fan of Black Hole Sun as a song. The song walks right up to the line and then, yeah. I actually was aware of that. And yeah, Davi, the fact that Angela Davis is Bale was almost paid by Aretha Franklin. Or that was she actually? Yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with making beautiful art. Not every piece of art has to speak specifically to the culture and everything else. Yeah, that's mutual aid right there. I don't expect a song to spell out the full revolutionary project in 3 minutes. Yeah, I suppose so. But there's also, like, a level where you can take it to its conclusion. Even in the song. And I feel like System of a Down does that better than Soundgarden. Personally. Entertainment does have value. I think, what about Rage Against the Machine? I'm a fan of Rage Against the Machine. Killing in the Name of. That one, I think, takes it to the goalpost. Ale left to get gummy bears. And what did you miss? We are now talking about Rage Against the Machine. When edgelords tried to posture as rebels, it's at best pretentious. I can see that. I kind of disagree, Gengle, because I think that no matter what we try to do, art exists in a society and in our world, and the idea of it being apolitical in itself is a political statement. There is no objectiveness. I am not a person who believes in objectivism. And as a matter of fact, what most pop songs, for example, tend to rely on is subjectivism. The idea that you can apply your own meaning to the lyrics that are vague enough for you to latch onto, and that's kind of what gives it its popular flair. But that doesn't mean we have to consume it all the time with that political message in mind. Sometimes we can just enjoy it. Okay. Sometimes you do need to turn your brain off for a while. If you keep addressing everything all the time, you're gonna burn yourself out. Or it chooses its own way, and sometimes the way it goes carries a specific political message. I can see that. That makes sense to me. Thank you for clarifying. I think we're almost done with the bulk of the bottom of the ship. This is so exciting. This has been a project that has taken multiple streams, and I am so glad this is coming out, as wonderful as it is. The vagueness in most pop music isn't meant to inspire reflection about your own subjectivity, rather to just be sellable to the greatest number of people. But what I mean, David, is the idea that the lyrics are so vague means that you can apply them to pretty much any problem. It's like, oh, you have a song that talks about this random problem or talks about problems, then you're able to identify it with anything from a breakup to the most, menial aspects of your society, of your life. And you can apply it to those things without ever having to think critically about what is actually going on behind the scenes that's making your life miserable. Isn't there a Bo Burnham song about this? I don't know Bo Burnham, so you'd have to tell me. For example, Chris Nolan's Batman films are very conservative worldview, and I think fans seem to forget that. I think it's because Nolan's Batman takes so much from Frank Miller. That's probably true as well. Okay, I'm glad that made sense, David. Grant Morrison Batman compared to Frank Miller's Batman, you have a Batman that's challenging the system for actually having change. I mean, there are some interpretations of Batman where he's actively, frustrated with the corruption in the police force, isn't there? And outside of, Commissioner Gordon, most of the cops are kind of suspect. Am I wrong with that? I mean, we don't tend to focus on that within a lot of the media, but I feel like that's part of the Batman narrative. Frank Miller's actually worse than Nolan. Yeah, Batman's not supposed to like cops. That's why he became a vigilante. I mean, he's still a billionaire at the end of the day. Who's dressing up in, a thing and using all these fancy, expensive gadgets to get stuff done. What is holding this up? Okay, seriously, what is holding all that up? Man-Eater Lad is greater than Batman. Matter-Eater Lad? The mutant gang from Miller's Dark Knight Returns. I never watched Dark Knight Returns. Writers have written Gotham City as almost like a state and explore society. Yeah. And issues within said systems. True. No, that one I need. I'll fix that as soon as I get this. What is holding this up? It looks like it's just floating. What am I missing here? Oh, there we go. There we go. Also, where is that hole I made in the floor? There it is. Okay, how we doing? There we go. I am loving this. Hey Jay, welcome. Thanks for coming out. Glad to have you here. Glad to hear that you're doing fine. I'm doing really well. I'm glad to have you here. Predictive text, yeah, I figured. I was like, I didn't respond yet. It's like, did I? Did I space out and forget? Just working on this ship here. We're having great conversations about culture and counterculture, and I might bring it into the main topic today of water, but as of now, we have finished the inside of the ship for the back part, and we've just got to bring it up to the front of the ship. But yeah, we can finish talking about Superman and comics a little bit more before we get into the water conversation. There's no rush. We've got a few hours left. But let me just catch up on chat outside of Jay arriving. Writers have written... yeah, I read that. All superheroes have to address the theme of vigilantism. That is sort of working outside the law, above the law, in a sort of might is right way. This is true. Dark Knight Returns was a graphic novel. I haven't read a lot of graphic novels, only Watchmen, V for Vendetta, and Alan Moore's pretty cool guy. Superman, for instance, used in MOS due to Pentagon propaganda and money, removed Lois Lane's father, General Sam Lane, because he's actually a psychopath who loves US imperialism and empire. The mutant gang was designed by Miller with uniforms that resemble the X-Men, as like he was saying that people who are different or fight for marginalized groups are part of society's decay. That's kind of extremely problematic and messed up, because the X-Men was supposed to be a reference to any sort of marginalized group in society, like you just pointed out. The X-Men were supposed to represent people who were gay, people who were for example, people of color who were pushed to the outsides of society. That's why you had the conversations and infighting that you had between Magneto and Professor Xavier about what to do and how to treat mutants. It was a very good analysis in a fictional way of a lot of marginalized groups. And the idea of having a bunch of mutants be depicted that way is really problematic. They even took one of Superman's villains because he's a US colonel turned villain. They took that out, yeah. Have you ever read Prometheus? I am not familiar with Prometheus. When I freaked out on Discord that I found a German socialist politician, turns out that politician is of the opinion that minority rights is keeping ink from reaching mainstream. Oh, so Jalix, what you're saying is that he's this particular politician is a brain. We can work today. We have enough caffeine. I can't think of the word. Class reductionist. There we go. Wait, what? Oh, I used the portal. Oh my god, that confused and scared me for a second. Class reductionist, yeah. How far do I go over here? 1, 2, 3, 4? Is that right? 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's probably what was holding things up. Coincidentally, in Marvel Comics now, the X-Men and Magneto are on the same side. Hashtag Magneto was right. Yeah, Magneto was right. I have always been a huge fan of the perspective of Magneto, to be perfectly honest. I mean, it also depends. Here's the thing about Magneto. It depends on who's writing Magneto, because sometimes he goes from comically, like, evil to Magneto gay and also right. He goes from comically evil to the point where he's, like, so much of a separatist that he ends up doing ridiculous things. To the point where sometimes he's just trying to create a safe haven and protect mutants, and isn't exactly, like, a separatist, but he's just, like, trying to, create a place where mutants can be safe from scrutiny. And, like, being attacked all the time. Yeah, like, the motives are kind of the same. All the way around. Like, Magneto's always going to be Magneto, for example. Like, he's always going to have that bend where he's not exactly 100% on board with everything else the X-Men do. But I like, Cyrus says, I personally like Revolutionary Magneto and the contrast with Professor X respectability politics. That's the version of Magneto I latch onto. Magneto goes all the way to space to make a safe space, and still things get ruined. In the original version by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, Magneto was a Nazi. Yeah, that's the thing. It really depends on who's writing him. Like, he goes between such wide ranges, and I tend to agree with the more revolutionary Magneto. Not so much that, you know, not so much that, like, we need to, you know, create, like, a mutant ethno-state or anything like that. But the idea that we need to protect people in these communities, and that can create a whole set of issues. Immortal Hulk is a good example of how writers can set the pace. Could you elaborate on that, Merchants? Because I am not familiar with Immortal Hulk. Thought Slime has a whole video on it. I'll post it on the Discord. I can't do it justice. Okay, I'll definitely check that out at some point. Zero, we've just been talking about comics. The Hulk is an unkillable body horror machine. This is true. Magneto was never meant to be a villain. Now in the comics, he and Xavier co-founded a mutant-only nation, Krakoa, and it's rapidly becoming the most powerful nation on Earth. That's awesome! And it's probably a nation that, if they're doing it correctly, is much more surrounded by the idea of, this is a place where mutants are safe, anybody is welcome here, but we are not going to allow mutant discrimination in our country. That's typically how those spaces tend to form. Especially if it's being realistic. I don't generally read superheroes, says Zero. I don't usually read the comics either, I just don't have time. So is Krakoa like a black nationalism? I'm getting that impression, Duke, but I would like to hear it from somebody who's actually read the comics. Jalix says, I'm not a comic fan, to be honest, but I can see the appeal, I suppose. I think for a lot of people, comics represent, hope, in a weird way, where they see people with, like, these powers and these different things, and they're able to make change in the world when we're really just stuck. They are also creating a Krakoan ethnic identity with its own language and art. Interesting. That's fascinating. I might have to look into that a little more. Also, I am going to have to, like, toss this out so I can pick all that up, because that's a lot. There's a true sense of hope in superheroes when they were created during the rise of the Depression and World War II. Yeah. I think they spoke to a desire to change and fix aspects of the world. And I kind of wonder what would have happened if, like, leftists had latched onto superheroes or been able to publish superheroes more commonly. To be Krakoan is to participate in a pan-mutant nationalism. It begins the dawn of the X story. And I'm assuming, David, that it welcomes anybody as long as you are in favor of mutants existing. Like, it's not like, only mutants are allowed here, we're making a mutant ethno-state. The original comic creators were almost all leftists. Oh, it is just mutants? That's... Are there really that many mutants? Yeah, that was something I was thinking about, Zero. Was the land uninhabited before? Lack right-wingers lack imagination and don't value art. Krakoa used to be alive. We are entering into a territory I have no idea about, so I'm following all of your lead. Oh, it's a different planet. Okay, it's a living island. There is a living planet. His name is Ego. This is true. And we don't like him. I actually really enjoyed the second Guardians of the Galaxy movie. There's also Mogo. There's just so much to keep up with comics, honestly. I might break some of this down later, but for now I feel like it works. Okay, now how do we get this front end of the ship to do the thing? I have to think about this for a minute. But I do believe... I was thinking about that, Jalix, and then I'm trying to think of, like, how to... where to have it peak at. I think I'm gonna have it peak here. Like, at this very front part. But I'm also having trouble, again, seeing... There we go. Well, it's gonna have to peak up at some point. Let's do that. And then we have to connect... I cannot see anything. What the... There we go. Okay. How did I do this on the other side? I did that, and then that. And then I stretched this. Wait, no, that's not right. That is not right. Okay, that's right. And then I move that there. And then that's where... I hate how I can't see in this game sometimes. Why didn't Thanos just make it so that everyone had what they needed? Yeah, that's a really good question. Because movie Thanos is a dummy. And it can produce anything it needs. Movie Thanos, comic Thanos is literally a godlike incel. This is true. Anybody who unironically shared the Thanos did nothing wrong me is ridiculous. Comic Thanos killed all those people because he wanted to impress a girl. He didn't just want to impress a girl, he wanted to impress Death herself. The embodiment of Death as a cosmic force. And he went to such a ridiculous level that he granted Deadpool immortality so that Deadpool didn't have a chance with Death. Cyrus says comic book Thanos would have been pretty meta and cool, especially with the treatment of women, because Thanos in the comics is literally, yeah, literally an incel. They really should have explored that angle. I agree. Movie Thanos' problem is that he suffers from a severe lack of imagination. If you have that much power, you don't kill people, you help them. He's obsessed with Death, who is embodied as a woman in the Marvel Universe, and she has no interest in him. True. That's not entirely the story, the origin story of Deadpool, Duke. Deadpool was a mutant. He's actually, like, got the same type of powers as the X-Men. And he has, like, really strong regenerative powers. But he would get to the point where he was on the verge of dying, and Death would always come see him every single time he was on the verge of dying, until his body restored itself. And then Thanos got jealous because Death and Deadpool have a very, very close relationship. So, Deadpool was granted full-on immortality in the comics. At least that's one of the versions of Deadpool, as I understand it. Like, he legit used the Infinity Stones to grant Deadpool immortality. Death is a woman, yeah. Very much, in some interpretations, she's very much based off of, La Muerte. Is it like the same Death as in like the Sandman universe? I don't think so. This, modern versions of Death, from what I have heard and or seen, sometimes has a kind of depiction like La Muerte. So, I don't know if it's quite the same. Or at least that's how I imagine the character. Maybe I'm imposing my own biases here. And then 1, 2, 3. Okay, I see what I did. And then it just goes down to 1s. Okay. La Muerte in... Kit, welcome. How are you doing? I feel like it's been a while since I've seen you. I hope you're having a lovely Sunday. La Muerte is one of the versions of the embodiment of death in the Day of the Dead. Yeah, La Santa Muerte. I will not do that justice. I recommend looking that up on its own merit, looking her up on her own merit, because I will not be able to do a proper service to her in a stream like this. Okay, I am going to slowly start to close this off then. I think that's reasonable. How do? So I should start, I think, by closing this off, like, right here. The MCU Thanos was leading a eugenics cult. That's kind of true. Even though Thanos has literally the power of a god in his hands, he can't imagine the end of the system. Capitalist realism! The end of the system is unfathomable even to a god. Sacrifices must be made. How familiar am I with the comic book versions of Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver's origins? I know that they're the kids of Magneto, aren't they? And that Scarlet Witch literally has the power of the Scarlet Witch, and is basically a cosmic force in and of herself, with multi-universal like capacities. Yeah, they are Romani. Jay says I argued with my cousin. Oh, I feel like I missed something. I argued with my cousin about that. I said instead of sacrificing half the population, why didn't he double the resources? The only explanation that I could possibly give, and they should have kind of mentioned this in the movies, is that maybe that would have actually killed him or been too much of his life force. Because we have to remember that the Infinity Stones do steal your life force. Maybe it is easier to destroy with the Infinity Stones than it is to create. That is literally the only explanation that I would have for something like that. Yeah, they were also Avengers at one point in the comics. They have been all over the place. Like, Marvel just, like, throws them into everything. Like, you also have the whole subplot with, Wanda's kids, which is weird. I'm gonna have to taper that up, because that looks weird. Hold on, what if I just clear the corners? Does that make it better? Okay, that makes it look still very bulky. When Wanda uses too much of her chaos magic at a time, it compromises her sanity. True. Hold on, I'm gonna just make this, and then I'll see about fixing or repairing it after I get a full picture of what it looks like. Because it might have to, like, trim some of it in some way. When one, do I remember M-Day? I never read M-Day, but I know of it. It's always fun when the comic writers do something to, like, fix all their continuity errors and, like, recombine universes. Yeah. Yeah, the ship is like almost, it's like getting there. So I'm gonna just like quickly shift the topic to what I had originally planned to talk about, if that's cool. I wanted to talk about water. Since we're back on the ship, as Zero pointed out. Water is life. I think that's something we can all safely agree is a true statement. And recently, Kamala Harris made a speech where she talked about wars being fought over water instead of oil. And given that we know that the water is on the futures exchange now, and that a lot of people under capitalism are starting to make the realization that water is becoming quite an issue, and I quite agree, King Cyrus, it is absolutely ridiculous. We are now in a place where we have to question whether what our position is going to be as anarchists, for example, in terms of water. How do we deal with the concept of water in a world where it's starting to be... So the gist of the speech, Emma, was basically the Biden administration, and this is something that I very much need to cover, is putting a lot of effort into improving water supplies, fixing pipes and all sorts of stuff around the country, and they put a ton of funding into fixing water. And the reason for this is because, as Kamala Harris pointed out, in the near future, probably within the next 20 to 30 years, as she hinted, we are not going to be fighting wars over oil. We are going to be fighting wars over water and who has access to water, which means the new imperialism is going to be around water. When we start looking at how the US and in its imperialism is going to start manifesting, they're giving us the hints right now. It is going to be for control of water supplies. There is going to be movement in capitalism to market and get control of water supplies to a greater degree than what we're doing now. The capitalists are completely aware of their crisis. There are ways, in fact, Duke, to get it out there. Desalinization is extremely expensive, merchants, and that's the issue. Under a system like capitalism, desalinization may not be as important to capitalists as the perspective of having a large water market where they can essentially control things and make profit. And that is part of the problem that we are dealing with. That in a lot of ways, the current system prioritizes people going without water to increase the demand and decrease the supply. Capitalism cannot meet the needs of a system like this, but desalinization would work. We would probably need a lot more nuclear plants. We would probably need a lot more renewable energy sources. Oh no, I'm sure she thinks the US is going to start those wars. I don't think they care in terms of announcing that level of things. Emma. I think they fully know what they're describing in that regard. In fact, I think it's priming for people to get used to the idea. It's kind of hard for a population to justify that. If you need water to live, it's hard to go against your government if they're literally providing you the water you need. Even if it's done through imperialism, even if it's done through all these horrible means, because water is so precious that you need it. But the problem is capitalism has never had a good position with water. We pollute rivers, we damage entire reservoirs. Indigenous peoples across the US, if you go to any of the movements, have been having the position that water is life since forever. And it has been the US that comes in and takes that and builds pipelines through necessary water locations and aquifers and damages entire ecosystems. But now we're suddenly prioritizing water because it's hit a crisis point. And will hit a crisis point, and the US wants to be at the forefront of controlling water supplies in the near future. Corporations are a structure of governance, but I can see Nestle and the likes leveraging greater control over nation states and attacking electoral mechanisms. Absolutely. Nestle's going to be a government. Yeah, probably. I used to attend scientific conferences where Nestle reps would spread their propaganda. It was awful. That is absolutely gross and frustrating, merchants. Nestle supports my local politicians via lobbying, so our boss's boss basically said we have no choice but to listen to their propaganda if we want to continue to receive funding. And that's how they control you. Einstein warned about it with nuclear fusion because capitalism cannot deal with such scales. It's true. Even if nuclear energy was able to be safe and sustainable in a way, the idea of what to do with the waste under capitalism, whenever you have something like this where waste products are a factor, capitalism is not equipped to deal with it because there is no incentive to properly manage the waste. We've seen that in Florida with the disaster they almost had with the gypsum that they are producing that helps with fertilizers. They now have radioactive water stacks that are literally about to tip over into Tampa Bay, and is going to cause all sorts of problems. Water is going to be the thing that is the most terrifying thing to lose. And one of the most telling factors, I think, is when Kamala Harris literally referred to water as a commodity. How you can refer to water as a commodity is beyond me. We need to, change that language. If wars are going to be fought over water, where will be the epicenters of these wars? Who will be most likely directly affected? My best response to you with that is going to be find the areas where there are the most freshwater lakes. Find the areas on the map where there are the most generous amounts of aquifers, where there are water supplies. People are going to be mining for aquifers in the future if we continue on this path. I wonder how long it'll be before applied materials science will impact on the global economy. I don't know. Oh, and just make sure that when you try to find a location that the US is going to possibly invade to get larger water supplies, especially freshwater supplies, the largest flashpoints are not going to be where the largest supplies are, but where the largest demand is. So, Duke, I agree with you in the fact that India and China, for example, with their large populations, are going to need water in a very large level, and they'll end up in conflicts over that. But where the US is going to imperialize is going to be where the demand is, or where the supply is greatest. We're talking about two different aspects of the same thing. Where the greatest demand is where the conflicts will erupt. Where the greatest supply is where the US will imperialize. And it'll ultimately be in an area where, there are mostly people of color. Because we're not going to imperialize Europe, for example. That's just beyond the US's desires. And it's not going to be with a great power. So find parts of the world in which the US has a large influence and is able to control aspects of the countries, say like Latin America, and that's where you'll likely see things happen. Duke, we're talking about running out of water. Like, we're going to have a water crisis in the next 20 years. The US is going to be hoarding supplies for the Imperial Core. They're already talking about systems to change wastewater management because the US and talking about using different water supplies for toilets and stuff like that from the fresh water that we use, which honestly we should have been doing in the first place. Actually, now that that side is complete, if I clip it a little bit on the sides, I feel like that's not going to look nearly as bad as it did before. The global north is already trying to do that with vaccine in terms of hoarding. True. I am loving all the counterpoints as well, merchants, and I love that we're all coming at this with our own perspectives. The lack of innovation in capitalism may kill us. That's the thing I'm worried about, honestly. Thank you, merchants. That means a lot to hear that we're able to have these types of conversations where it's not about debating specifically, but hey, like, here's an issue. How do we all talk about this? How do we all address it? How do we come to some sort of understanding of where we are on these positions? And even if we disagree, fundamentally, we're all just trying to make the world a better place, and we acknowledge that, and I'm grateful for that. Water Wars is what Kamala is going under. It's literally Mad Max. Yep. Yes, it is. You don't. Jalix says, I don't think humanity or bad capitalism will handle the climate catastrophe. I mean, there's no killing a global population of 7 billion. Jalix, I'm going to give you a counter example. In the United States, there is a issue with deer populations. Because of the amount of damage that people have done to wolf populations, populations in the United States have not enough natural predators, to be perfectly honest. It's part of the reason deer hunting is a practice in the United States to the extent that it is. And if you do not kill the deer, and you do not limit their populations, what ends up happening due to that population expansion is that they end up consuming enough food, try to consume enough food for all of them, and then parts of the population end up huge swathes of the population end up starving out. You don't exactly extinct it completely, but it would be an absolute disaster. And I see something like that happening with water if we don't address it sooner rather than later. And I don't mean this in like a eugenics way of, oh, we should just wipe out the population. No, a lack of that level of supply of water will leave a good number of people dying and crunching. The population numbers will literally crunch on themselves. You will see 7 billion drastically drop And that's the kind of extinction level we're talking about. Even if you don't have every single person die, even if humanity survives, the planet will see a drastic drop in population, and you may see things like water rationing happening to prevent that. It would be so much worse than the COVID situation. And I can totally see the ANCAPs now being like, I'm not going to ration my water. I have a right to use as much water as I want to. People will die like climate change will destroy the Earth's carrying capacity for life. Yeah, something like that, for sure. But it'll only affect the poor, says Duke. Yeah, that's part of the problem, isn't it? We're kind of too comfortable with that concept. I can't see again. Yay. There we go. Maybe I'm just gonna end for the night so I can actually get the D late in the game. ANCAPs don't realize that they're probably part of the poors. True. Water scarcities also limit our food production and technological capabilities. That is absolutely true. Also, we rely on water supplies to produce most of our fertilizers. So what happens when you can't produce fertilizers? We have come to rely on a lot of these fertilizers. And we need water to purify them all, you know? So what do we do in that situation? Yeah, how do we water crops for agriculture? I think these are important questions we're going to have to ask ourselves. Water is also the main solvent in a ton of chemical reactions used to make objects we use. Isn't water required in terms of designing and making plastics as well? Because if so, imagine the medical equipment that's going to get affected. Because medical equipment very much relies on plastics. Meanwhile, we have golf courses. I just need to get that frustration off my chest as with that. We have golf courses wasting millions of gallons of water every year. And this is ultimately the problem of capitalism when something is cheap. They have golf courses in the desert. In the desert. Like, who thinks that's a good idea? It'll affect our ability to sanitize the hands and tools of medical workers. True. It'll run all the way through everything that we do. Golf courses suck. A sport so openly celebrating privilege. You wouldn't mind a golf course in the desert if it was all sand traps. True. That'd be funny, actually. Won't somebody think of the poor rich people with their need for golf courses when we can't have water to drink? Why can't the rich actually find fun games to play? So true. Because money gives you brain worms. I think I might just have that go up a little bit. I can definitely fix that. Yeah, this is gonna work. I have a plan. We are their fun game to play. Ooh, merchants, you are not wrong. I am gonna finish this section quick, and then I am going to... What? Also, this ship is monolithic. Yeah, it is. Also, if you heard a beep sound, please ignore that. How dare we pressure the mainstreaming of this as a topic of discourse? Gigantic is an understatement. Yeah, I'm kind of like amazed at this ship, honestly. Bezos is playing IRL Civ. True. The point is that we're going to start needing to come up with alternative sources of water. And there is plenty of it on the planet. It's just a matter of how do we get that to work in a system like capitalism where there's no incentive. Because there honestly is no incentive. Not how dare we, how do we? True. This ship is so massive. I am going to very quickly run to the bathroom, and I shall be back momentarily. Okay, and we are back. BRB moving to Base Cat's ship. Indeed, everyone should move to Base Cat's ship. It's big enough for a pirate commune. I doubt there's a solving for this problem under capitalism, a lot like food insecurity and homelessness. Base Cat will use this ship for interdimensional warfare. We use it and prepare in the meantime to be another crisis we can capitalize on and erode capitalist hegemony. We would need to be ready with solutions. True. Make a room for each of us on the ship? Maybe. Maybe. Let's see. A little bit beyond that. Yeah. That. And then get it back longer. Try to match this up as best as possible. The cult of Base Cat. Indeed. There we go. Now that points up a bit. You sign a contract that lasts millions of years and doesn't expire after you die. If you make room for all of us, make sure to put in bathrooms. That's how we'll know you care. Throw back to Tomty. True! As we know, Tomty's toilet is over there in the distance. True friendship relies on toilets. Ollie, very important news. The cat has started snoring. Poor, oh my god, cute baby. Vamp, welcome. How are you doing this Sunday? I just spilled tea on myself. Yay! The lid fell off my teapot. I'm okay. Except my ear just fell off. Okay, we're having a moment. Technical difficulties. There we go. It spilled on me. The lid to my teapot fell off while I was pouring. I am having Earl Grey tea. It mostly just got on my leg. It's not a fake ear, it's detachable. Detachable, it's different. No, the teapot was mostly empty, that's why the lid came off. Because I was pouring the last bit of it. You know, the saddest part of a tea experience. Tea, Earl Grey, hot. Indeed. Let's see, there we go. Oh, actually, that's kind of perfect, isn't it? Hmm. One less. One less. One less. There we go. Spilling tea isn't going to help our water problem. Indeed. Me spilling tea has completely uprooted and caused the end of everything good. I need light in here because I can't see. Maybe this is the beginning of the end. The uniform was a t-shirt that said, "Save water, drink margaritas." That is, probably not going to fix things, but yeah, it's a good slogan. Okay. Let's now do this. Need more light. That is the one thing about this game that I feel like they really need to work on. How dark things get. Yeah, the lighting system most definitely needs work in this game. At least if you drink enough margaritas, the water problem doesn't bother you anymore. True. Will Base Cat ship have a plank? We could make a plank. Do we want a plank? That's something we could definitely make happen after we get the rest of this stuff in order. Is it winter in game again? Yes, yes it is. You like winter and you miss it already? What do you like about winter? I tend to prefer spring and autumn, honestly. We will condemn our enemies to swim in the unfluid dynamic water. That's true. Cold, snow, not as bright. An excuse to have fire. I miss that, Duke. I miss that time that Duke said he misses winter. There we go. Also, probably on an unrelated note, I might actually plan out our garden this year and do it more like it than usual. I even did a bit of research. That's awesome! Also... Zero asks, what are you gonna plant? And Ale asks, what are your thoughts so far? Yeah, I'd like to know what you're gonna plant also. Wait, what? Okay. That was weird. It wasn't letting me place blocks for a second. Garlic and onion and spices? Interesting. Zero says I had a basil plant that died over the winter, but it was huge. Oh, what happened to it? Okay. Nice. The only thing I might amend... Yeah, that... I like that better. Okay. And now we just need to point this up here. which is like the one area I don't fully know how to deal with. But I'm sure we're gonna figure this out. Mostly because I can't see, because the lighting in this game. The internet taught me, and then I'm passing it on to you. Zero says I'm a bad gardener. Well, that's probably not true. It's all about learning and growing with it. Actually, I only really need... It's like that part can just be in front. So, I only really need this to say go here. Hmm. No, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Then this can do that. Yep. And you can do that. Nice. And then we can make this go one in. Okay, what did I miss? We can make local communities much more self-sufficient than they are through agriculture. True. Ollie says I'm gonna head out and take a nap because I am exhausted. Have a nice day, everyone. Ollie, I hope you have a wonderful nap and you rest up well. And I hope it's refreshing for you. I will stop one short here. do that. And I think this can go like that the whole way through. We'll close this off here. And then close this one up here. Zero says, I think I'm gonna head out as well. I'm gonna make dinner. Enjoy the rest of the chill Sunday, everybody. Well, take care, Zero. Thanks for coming out, and I will see you on the Discord. I'm glad you were able to make it, and I wish you and Maggie the best. What was this about music? Have I ever looked into royalty-free music? I have not. Mostly because Staxel does a good job of that, like Jalix had said. But generally speaking, it's not really something that I've even thought of. It's something I could look into in the future, though, depending on the game. Oh, I don't want that for my videos, honestly. If that's what you're saying. Oh, I appreciate the offer of an option, David. It's always helpful to have more choices. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We return to 6. Beautiful. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. I need light again. Kit, thank you for coming out. It was lovely having you back here after all this time. I hope you as well enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Alright, Jalix, we'll figure it out with that regard. Let's get more light in here. Still can't see. Are video games more right-leaning in our time? That is an interesting question. I don't know. I feel like even most video games have some sort of leftist perspective or leaning in some way, shape, or form. Like, I feel like there's a desire to cover certain aspects of things. About social issues, but I don't know. I think we get away with ignoring a lot of it. Like, people who play Metal Gear Solid, for example, that's perfectly an anti-war game, but people don't pay attention to the anti-war message a lot of the times when they play it. Just filling in the last gaps, I think. Hmm. Marx was a heroic figure in the Assassin's Creed continuity. What did I miss? Marx was weird in Assassin's Creed. Actually. I recently just played that. They made Marx like a full-blown sock dab. It was very interesting. Yeah, you do find Marx. Yeah. I mean, he called me comrade, so, like... Okay, let me... Oh, I've built myself in. Um... Hmm. Good job. Where do I want to make the entrance? Probably around here. No, because so let's do that for now. That works. There we go. The outside of the ship, I believe, is done. I kind of... Take care, Jalix. Thank you for coming by. I think the only thing I am slightly regretting is I want this to be slightly shorter. So I'm gonna have to rework like a little bit of this. I thought he was organizing labor militancy in the game. He was, but what you hear him say isn't very radical. That's true. He also, like, fights and, like, he has you stop an anarchist, which was something. Look at that. It took how many? How many streams? I think this is the third stream we've been working on this. There's a few other cosmetic details I'd like to add. Specifically, I want to add a ram, like right down here. And I need a rudder in the back. But this is definitely a ship. I am inclined to believe he did. No, that's too much. That's... That's better. I feel like that point might be too steep. What do you all think? Like, it kind of just looks like it's a little too far up. It was a counterculture version of Marx. I don't know, I kind of like it, but it might just need more support. Like a sword about to come down. I could see that. I might just add a little bit of, like a support to it, and just see how that looks quick. That's too much. A bit more support slash pointiness to the front of the hull to make it more streamlined. It is coming out good, yeah. I kind of feel like I want it to just be maybe a little lower. I don't know, that might be a next time project. Maybe I'll think about that, because I like it, but also it's a little too much. So we need a rudder. I'm gonna add a ram down here. And then maybe angle this down just a little bit. Actually, what if I just... something like that. Now that's still gonna have to be changed. How would a ship this huge even be furnished? I have no idea. I haven't thought that far ahead. You think I planned this out, Jalix? Let me just get an image of a rudder super quick. Rudder. Ship. How many masts am I gonna have? I have no idea. It's gonna be interesting to find out. I need a wooden ship. Okay, I see how to do that. One, two, three. That might be tiny. That might be very tiny. I want to see it at daytime. That's kind of a tiny rudder, isn't it? You know what I can do? When in doubt, check the other ship. Oh, okay, this ship doesn't have a rudder, does it? Unless that's supposed to be the rudder. Oh, I have no idea what happens when the ship's done. I have not thought that far ahead. Yeah, that's how they design their rudder. 2, 4. That's the rudder. And it goes into the water. We sail away to a better world. True. Alright, I think I have the ability to make mine a little bigger then. Without it looking ridiculous. Let's jet it out like 2 more. And see how this looks. That's better, but I think that's gonna have to still be bigger. Kind of feel like it needs to go about 3 higher. Oh, okay. And what I'm gonna do... Let's just play with this and see how this comes out. David, enjoy your dinner. Thank you all for great, David says, thank you all for great company and conversation. And I really do appreciate the conversations we've had this week. So thank you as well, David. And I hope you will join us next week. Actually, this is looking a lot better. Remember to hit the like button, indeed. You forgot to say it earlier when everyone was here? Yeah. It's okay. That's actually a pretty decent rudder. I might even have it go one further down. Kinda like that. Oh, I like that. Well, we're about to wrap up anyway, merchants, so... But thank you for coming out. It was lovely having you. I like that rudder. Wait, what happened on that? Wait, that's weird. Oh, there we go. There we go. And you know what? Let me do that so that it looks like it tapers in a little bit. There we go. Our ship has a rudder. And I might just do this because most rudders are attached further up. Yeah, that works. Or you know what? I'll do 2, 2, 1. Yeah, that's better. Same. I think this is coming out lovely. So I am gonna wrap this up, I think. It's about that time. I want to thank you all for coming out. It was lovely having you all here. Base Cat is happy to have you here. Look how happy Base Cat is. Base Cat's hungry. Oh no, we gotta feed Base Cat before we wrap up. There you go, Base Cat. It was absolutely lovely hanging out with you all. Next time we will hopefully finish up some of this ship. Just finish up the cosmetic details of it and fix the front and get some masks going and some nice stuff. Well, Em, I'm glad you enjoyed as well. Duke made a river in Minecraft. That's pretty awesome. And, so with that in mind and said, if you are someone new who's watching this for the first time or watching my content for the first time, I have 2 links in the description below for my single donation and my Patreon. If you are someone in a place where you can financially afford it and it will not hurt you financially, I would definitely appreciate any sort of donation. We also have a description to my lovely Discord where we have a great community. We do stuff like book clubs and we have stuff that we watch together and just have great conversations. You are more than welcome to join. We'd love to have you. I do have a link to my Twitter in the description down below as well. And if you like what you saw here and like the political conversations that we had, you can check out the rest of my videos. Feel free to subscribe and hit that like button in the description down below. My name is Anarchist Tara, and I loved having you all here this chill Sunday, and I thank you all for watching.